A man wakes up from his deep sleep and looks around. All around him, everyone is dead. Now he goes around confused, and there's some more drama to unfold. It's not just the humans. Everyone around him and in the world is dead too. He was all alone in this world. What is it that kills everyone but him? It all started with a local clinic in Yamanashi, which is crowded due to the flu outbreak in that city that was greater than ever. Nobuo is getting the latest seasonal flu shot and some medicine from the clinic as he's also not feeling well. Afterward, Nobuo makes his way to his job. He's a lab technician working in some kind of biotech field. He goes to the lab despite his high fever, and upon being asked by the receptionist, he says he'd rather work than be home alone. Nobuo keeps sneezing at his desk while working. His colleague mentions that he might set off the biocon alarm if he keeps this up, and then asks him to use the company's over-the-counter cold medication. But he says he's been trying them and opens his drawer to prove his point. He's literally trying every medicine possible. That actually might not be such a good idea. Another colleague suggests he can try a new anti-fever drug being developed by the company which is not released to the public yet. He then mentions he can find the blue capsule in a red case in the chief's office. This does sound almost like the Matrix. Nobuo gives it a thought. Later, when he goes to the chief's office to submit some paperwork, the chief isn't there. He then thinks of the capsule that his colleague had mentioned, so he keeps the file on the table and tries to find the capsule. There he sees a few capsules in a bottle with sample written on them. He picks up the blue jar instead and takes one red capsule from it. Obviously, he took the wrong one. Meanwhile, two girls in the reception are chatting when they smell a weird odor. Elsewhere, the chief professor is storming to the main lab as he's found out that someone has stolen the red pills. He needs to know who was there in his office. The guy who suggested Nobuo to take the pills earlier says that Nobuo had probably gone to his office a while ago and may have taken the pills. What a snitch. The professor races over demanding to know where Nobuo is and what he had done with the pills. Another worker pipes out telling him that he wasn't feeling well and just went to the guest room to take a nap. Then the professor hurries out towards the guest room to find him. The rest of the workers in the lab also start noticing the weird smell. The next morning, Nobuo wakes up feeling refreshed from his nap. Well, it turned out to be a good sleep as nobody woke him up. He steps out in the hallway to check on everybody. However, he sees the receptionist slumped over her table. He thinks she's sleeping, but is shocked to find out that she's actually dead. He calls up for help, but no one responds. As he looks all over his lab, he finds all of his colleagues are also dead, even the rats in the cage. Horrified, Nobuo calls an ambulance to investigate the lab. He wonders if the chemical incident has happened, but the biocon alarm should have been triggered. He comes to the chief's office but finds out the chief is also dead in front of the biocon switch. As he appears near the chief's body, he sees that the biocon switch is turned off. When he turns on the switch, the alarm starts going on like crazy. The chief's computer turns on automatically and people are all over the screen, screaming to know what is going on as they see the chief lying dead from the CCTV footage. The director takes over and asks Nobuo what has happened and he explains the situation. He then instructs Nobuo to deliver certain medications and files to the company's headquarters in Tokyo. He doesn't want anyone to know about the incident just yet, because it could be related to a new drug that the government had ordered them to develop in secret. As Nobuo begins to gather items, he discovers that the secret drug is the one he took the day before. He becomes concerned, but decides to pack everything in his briefcase and ride his bicycle out of the office. He notices a flock of flying birds nearby that is suddenly dying. One of the birds landed on his face, causing him to fall off a cliff. When he opens his eyes, he sees a mass of dying animals all around him. Strangely, all the plants are blooming even though it is the off-season. Nobuo climbs to the road and notices a crashed ambulance nearby. When he goes over to check, he finds everyone inside dead, just like his coworkers in the lab. He realizes it's not just that ambulance, but many other cars on the road in the same situation. In Tokyo, we see the director along with a few other important people making their way to a discussion room. They meet up with a general of Japan's army who asks them what the hell is going on. They brief the general on the incident and how it may be related to the drug requested by the Japanese and American governments. Meanwhile, reporters have gathered near the highway to Kofu City as the army begins to evacuate Kofu residents. Nobody knows what's going on or what the odor is. Even news helicopters flying miles above the city and gas masks can't stand the stench. When one of them sees Nobuo waving a flag on the roof of a building, he decides to save him. The reporter approaches Nobuo after they land the helicopter and is immediately killed by the odor. The cameraman also drops dead. He shouts for help into the camera before it cuts out. Back in the discussion room, the general says that he's never heard of this kind of medical research before. The director and his colleague then explains that they were hired by the Prime Minister to make a powerful bioweapon to protect their country. So they formed a secret research team with their employees. One of the analysts on the sidelines then tells the director that the center of disaster is moving, maybe due to the wind. The director informs the general that they assigned Nobuo the task of transporting the files and samples to Tokyo. The generals are taken aback by the fact that there's still a survivor from the area. They then realize that Nobuo could be the source of the tragedy. However, Nobuo is walking on the streets filled with dead bodies and the yellow gas surrounding him. But he doesn't seem to notice that the gas is coming from him. When the army returns to Kofu after evacuating the city, they notice Nobuo walking in the distance while they were about to seal the tunnel. They decide to evacuate him as well, but when the soldiers approach him, they immediately die. The army concludes that Nobuo is the source of the smell because of the green mist that follows him. They decide to leave Nobuo behind and run away, but Nobuo is completely unaware of that fact and he tries pursuing them. However, they more or less manage to escape from him. After walking in the tunnel for a biocon, Nobuo notices the green mist around him and tries to run away from it. Back in the room, they have found out that Nobuo is the cause of the gas. They speculate that the substance in the drugs reacted with another chemical in Nobuo's body when he ingested the drugs, resulting in the deadly odor. The intensity of this deadly odor varies according to his mood and metabolism. Well, in that case, the Japanese army wants to kill him to prevent the spread of the odor, but the American army wants Nobuo alive, as they've invested a lot of money in drug research. Then the general argues that protecting their people's lives and properties is their primary duty. Nobuo eventually manages to ride a motorcycle toward Tokyo to deliver the files and medicine as instructed. The army starts shooting him and he even gets targeted by missiles, but he miraculously dodges all of them. Dozens of warplanes and helicopters all try and fail to shoot him down. The targets made by every machine seems to miss. The tanks firing bullets towards him from the other side of the bridge crashes one onto the other, which then begins to explode one by one. It turns out that the chemicals released from his body are causing interference on the targeting systems. Therefore, Nobuo oddly escapes every attack from jets, navy, as well as bombs and just keeps riding towards Tokyo. At this point, the army base has become chaotic, and everyone is preparing to flee Tokyo. This creates chaos in the city because traffic is backed up, the airport is overcrowded, and everyone just wants to get out of there. The Prime Minister then issues a statement requesting assistance from the United Nations. The case is then taken over by the US general who has been watching the situation up to this point, and sends in a NASA squad of 3 soldiers in spacesuits to try to capture Nobuo. NASA's most recent spacesuit is a prototype that can repel electromagnetic radiation, and assist soldiers in capturing Nobuo alive. The Japanese army intends to freeze Nobuo in a tunnel on the way to Tokyo by blocking the entrance and blowing cold air through the other end. The NASA team arrives and walks into the tunnel. Nobuo notices them and becomes alarmed due to their menacing appearance. He tries to escape, but there is nowhere for him to go. It causes his body to release a foul odor that destroys the army's machinery, forcing them to retreat. The analysts are trying their best to track the squad. However, they had lost contact with the teams for more than 30 minutes. Slowly, they start seeing them on the track. The intensity of the odor also decreases. They finally see that the squad has survived from the security footage. The squad manages to keep Nobuo successfully in the isolation bag and drags him back to the military headquarters in Tokyo. One of the NASA soldiers brings Nobuo's briefcase full of documents and the sample pills to the general. When he turns off his face shield, they find out that the person inside the suit is Nobuo, and he's still completely unaware of the fact that he is the source of all these catastrophes. He ejects himself outside the suit, killing everybody in the facility. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notification, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.